Oliver Pichon Luthier here, and today we're going to get this ukulele, this tenor ukulele, ready for finishing. We have glued the neck onto the body, and it's come out really sweet. We have the neck is all glued on and cleaned up, and the heel plate is on. This little tenor here, which is really came out really sweet. It's perfectly flush here, and everything is sanded. The little corners have been slightly eased on all of this, so it's all ready for finishing, except that we have to lay out the location of the bridge, and we're going to actually mask that area off, as well as mask the fretboard, because the fretboard and the bridge do not take the same finish as the rest of the instrument. So to do that, we have to be very precise in locating where the bridge goes. That's extremely important to get proper intonation on this. So the first thing we're going to do that is to measure where we're going to put the bridge. I've made this little bridge out of ebony, and with a little bit of abalone inlay in it, and I have a little surrogate saddle put in there that I have a piece of tape on, and I've marked right in the center there a little mark, which is the exact middle of the bridge, and we're going to locate that here. Where does it go? So to do that, to know that we have it perfectly aligned with the neck so that the strings will be all the right distance, and this has got a 17-inch scale on it, but we're going to give it a little bit of extra on that. The reason that you always put a little extra on your when you lay the bridge down, when you have a little bit of extra, is because when the strings come off of the nut here and head down that way, when you're applying pressure on the string, it shortens the string slightly by when you do that. It's very slight, but it's something that we have to do. It's a very slight distance. So what we do is we do it 17 and 3/32. But how do we get that? So what I'm going to do is put in a surrogate nut here that I put in this slot here. This is just one that I have for this purposes, and it fits in there really well. And then we're going to mark where the center of the neck is here on the fretboard. So we're going to put a little piece of tape here, and we're going to put another little piece of tape down here, and then we're going to make a mark where the exact center is on those. So we'll come in here and we can see that that we'll just mark right where that is, and I can see, okay, so if this has a 0 in the center and then measures to both sides, so if I do that, I can see that I am right there. Let's see, that's going to be 20, okay, I've got 28/32 on both sides here, right at that point. So I'm going to make a little mark right there in the center at the 0 mark, and that's our 0 mark. That's the center of the fretboard at that point. I'm going to do the same thing up here on this side, and we're going to find our 0 point here in the center, and we're going to measure over, let's see, I've got 23. Okay, so there's 23/32 either side, and there's our mark. So I have a little mark here and a little mark there, and we're going to take a 24-inch rule here. We're going to place it on top, and I have the rule so it's butted up right up against the nut on this side, and we're going to have this edge right on those little pencil marks. And then we're going to take some clamps, and we're going to clamp that on there. So it it's right in the edge of the ruler is right in the center of the pencil mark, which is right in the center of our fretboard. So that's clamped on there. So we know that this is the center, is going to be the center of our bridge. So now we're going to take this, the saddle and the bridge, and it always, because this is a little lower, it's down a little bit, there's some flex in this, and that is really what we want because it allows us to really hold this where we want it. So with our center line there, on this, we set that right in the center at 17 and 3/32. And then we take a square, little square, and we hold the square in here so that the square is riding against the edge of the ruler, coming up against the bridge, and then we can turn the bridge so that it's sitting square. Now this bridge is square to this axis, and we're going to slide it to make sure that we have 17 and 3/32 right to the center of the top of the saddle, which is right there. So that's where the bridge goes. Now we want to mask that area off, and obviously that's going to be something that we have to get masking tape underneath there. So what I do first, to know where that goes, is I'm just going to take a couple little pieces of tape, and I'm just going to put them on the top of the ukulele here at where the ends of the approximate where the ends of the bridge are, the little wings there on the bridge. So we just put those there. That gives us an idea of where we're going to put our tape. So I'm going to take this out, and I have some tape here which is for delicate surfaces. So I'm going to slide this underneath here like this over to this area, and then we're going to place that right there. So we can see that we've got plenty of, around there, there's plenty of tape. So we're going to trim that tape now. So we're going to put this back underneath here on top of that tape. And we're going to come in at 17 and 3/32, which is right there because we're using a 17-inch scale on this. Put our square in there. Make sure that we're square. The bridge is square on this axis. Okay, and we're going to slide this a little bit this way. And there we are. We're 17 and 3/32 right there. And we know that the bridge is square and the proper distance from the nut. So it is. It's right there. That's where it is. That's where we want to have this. So this is putting a fair amount of tension on this, so this is not wiggling around much. So now we're going to take a razor blade, and what we want to do is, this is critical because we do not want to cut the fibers in the top. We just want to cut the tape. So what I do is I take a little piece of 1000 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to hone this just very lightly. I don't throw away these razor blades. I actually sharpen them. So we just hone that very slightly to make sure that we have this thing as sharp as we can get it. And so there we go. So it doesn't take much, just a little bit like that. That is very sharp. So now what we're going to do is just very lightly come around, and we're going to cut the tape, only leaving so that we can just take away all the tape except for the piece that's right in the center underneath the bridge. So I'm just going to come in here and very lightly, and you can hear it. So you just come in very lightly like this, and we just come along. We're not cutting any of the fibers in the top. I can hear it when it just goes through the tape and not any deeper. So we cut this. Like that. Okay, so obviously I haven't cut it underneath where the ruler is and the rule. So we're going to have to now just gently move this rule out of the way so we can cut those. So I'm just going to hold this down with my thumb while I take these clamps off. Take the ruler out of there. This hasn't moved. So now, I don't know if you noticed, but when I honed this, I made a little mark with a marker right there, so I know which end of this blade is really sharp, and I'm just going to come in here and then just cut that where the rule was. On both sides. There we go. Now, so there we go. Now we can just remove this tape and we can see, okay, I didn't cut quite through it all the way here, so I'm just so careful. I'd rather go over it twice and make sure that I haven't cut any fibers in the top. I want to make sure that it's absolutely perfect. So I'm just coming down here again with my blade. Let's see, I should go right. Yeah, there it is. Okay, a little spot where I didn't quite get all the way through here. Pays to take your time, do a good job. And there it is. So now we don't need these little pieces of tape here, and get rid of those. Okay, so that masking tape is on there really well. So when we finish this area will not get any finish. So before we just go with that, I always like to put this on here one more time and just make sure that our measurement is right, because once we do this, we're kind of set in stone that this is the way it's going to be. So I'm just going to lay that there and make sure it's absolutely where I want it. And once again, we'll clamp this up. It's right on the line there. So I've got the ruler butted up against the nut, and I've got it right there. That's it. That one's right on. That one's right on. There is 17, and okay, so I've got this, managed to grab this so it's on the 64th side, so it's going to be 3/32 is going to be what, 6/64, so that's right there. And we put the square in. Make sure we're square. It's absolutely square. And there we are. We have 17 and it's right exactly there. Yeah, and it's perfect. So that tape is right where we want it. Always good. Measure twice. So that is how we locate where we're going to put the bridge. Now it's just a simple matter of masking off this fretboard here, and I'll use the same kind of tape for that, and then we will begin our finishing process. The only other thing that we want to do when we're doing this is, and I always do this, is that this is masked off. I'm going to mask off the little area where the nut goes, and then I'm going to put some crumpled up paper inside the body here so that when we do finishing, that our finish doesn't go through the sound hole into the body. And so finishing, that'll be another video. Hope you enjoyed this. If you liked it, let me know. Subscribe to my channel and pass it on.